With the challenges in our universities and K-12 schools and the growth of AI making headlines, it's never been more important for our elected officials to be knowledgeable about the challenges of our educational system and opportunities we have to strengthen it. Our guest today on Think Deeply is former teacher and San Diego City Council member Raul Campillo. Raul Campillo was born and raised in San Diego. After graduating from Harvard with a degree in government, he worked as a fifth grade public school teacher in North Las Vegas, one of the country's poorest school districts. After earning his master's degree in education from UNLV and a law degree from Harvard Law, Raul spent several years practicing complex litigation and conducting white-collar criminal investigations with the international law firm O'Melveny and Myers before becoming a deputy city attorney in San Diego. In 2020, Raul was elected to a four-year term on the San Diego City Council. Raul is a bridge builder who seeks to change people's minds so they are more compassionate for each other. Raul Campillo, welcome to Think Deeply.
Thanks so much, Mitch. Let's have a great conversation. Let's think.
Let's do it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's begin with your origin story.
Well, my life doesn't start with me. It really starts with my parents and grandparents. My parents were both from the Imperial Valley, Calexico specifically, and my grandparents came from different backgrounds on different sides. And it all started with that. That really influenced my view of what the challenges were of being a biracial, binational family, and the struggle for social justice and all of those things that we saw in the 50s and 60s and 70s to try to make America a more fair place, a place that really lives by equality and the rule of law. And so as I was growing in my consciousness about what to do as an adult, I really wanted to go into politics. My father's been an immigration attorney for 45 years and helped thousands of families immigrate to the United States. And I said, I want to do something like that, if not that. So going to Harvard for me was really a chance to get out of California, see people from the rest of the country and the world, and go to a place where a hero like John F. Kennedy of mine was educated. And I even lived in the same dorm for 3 years that he did. Not the same room, though. They have that set aside. So while I was at Harvard, that was really where I met people of different races from all different countries. And where at that time, there's a different story about what's been going on at Harvard lately. But at that time, it was not what we've seen in the news as of the last several years. I would eat at Hillel on Fridays because they had better fish than the regular dining hall. I would hang out with people of all Latino backgrounds. Not in Southern California, Mexican Americans are the biggest group, but really learning about cultures all the way to the tip of Argentina and all the way across the world. And so really that's where I expanded my understanding of what diversity is and the value of it and what we should be doing. And it all came back to one word in my mind that we're all striving for, and it's peace. Seeing people come from countries that are not peaceful, learning in an institution that is trying to make sure people cross paths so that we can live in a more peaceful world. And that was the big lesson that I learned at Harvard, whether I wanted to go into politics or become an attorney and then ended up being a teacher for a few years. That was connected all the way back to what I saw in my grandparents and a biracial marriage, trying to create peace and what peace can look like when it's grounded in love, right? So my time at Harvard was exceptional, and I really appreciated it. And then in between college and law school, I chose to do the program called Teach for America, and they assigned me to go to North Las Vegas. And as you pointed out, a very impoverished area. I was in a Title I school. A lot of my students were behind grade level and were suffering from a lack of educational resources, particularly because the state of Nevada was not really investing in the way it should. So I did my best to really teach students of all different backgrounds, a lot of Latino, a lot of African American, a lot of Asian students as well.
Well, that's a great story, and thank you for your service, and thank you for the work you did with the kids as a school teacher. And I'm sure you saw a lot there, and
Yes.
you saw maybe some of the things you grew up with, and you saw the hard life that some of these kids had, and the limited budgets for raises for the teachers and all kinds of things. Maybe we could drill down for a minute into some of the things you saw as it relates to building a strong next generation. Education is super important. And what did you see that was looking great, and what did you see that gave you concern?
I think the thing that I saw that was so great was that every single student has immense potential. There was not one student I came across that I taught that I thought this person just can't learn. All of them are desperate to have more information. They love learning. And I see it now with my 2-year-old son. He is constantly wanting to read, constantly wanting to speak, constantly wanting to listen to music, explore. And I saw that in my fifth graders. Both years that I taught, I saw that in my fifth graders. And while the vast majority of them, when I got them as fifth graders at the beginning of the year, were well behind grade level on reading and writing and math, they wanted to do better. They showed up to do better. And so when I saw that passion, it made me say, I got to step up my game, even as a first and second year teacher. And not once did I hear any of my 64, 65 students that I had over those 2 years complain about their family situation or the poverty they might be facing. They might ask for more food at lunch because they were hungry, but I never heard them ever complain. They wanted to be at school. And so the thing that really I saw about a school system is that every single chain in a school system has to work to actually benefit students. All of those chains links have to be working together. And if one of those things is a little bit weak, the whole chain gets weak. And so what I learned about organizations is I can only control what is in my authority and my power, and to focus as hard as I can to be a strong link where I can be. And what was very disappointing was seeing how other components weren't carrying their weight. I saw it at other schools. I felt like I had an excellent school that had an excellent link for everybody. And so, I could see it in different individuals where I was really just thinking to myself, this is the most important system we have in our entire society, the education system. That from everything else from there can be strengthened: economic, health, employment, public safety, peace building through our neighborhoods, all these different things that we rely on in our society go back to education. I talked with my fifth graders about racism, about economics, about really just complex issues, and how there's ways to see both sides, and that working together, we find a common path forward, a middle ground forward, where everyone can accept the solution and build towards something better. I could see what was in front of me and how to shape a student and get them to where they need to go as a whole human being, and to be a person who believes in peace and the strength of all the other educational things that feed to that. And that's what left a lasting impression on me, and I hope a lasting impression on my students.
Well, if your students came out of that experience, Raul, with a better sense of what was great about our nation and peace, and had that curiosity that you referenced, that your 2-year-old has, that the fifth graders seem to bring into the classroom, that's a win. And that's almost enough to set the foundation for a good basic education. And absent that, not much else matters. We're seeing, and fairness is a big subject to try to do in 2 minutes. So
Yeah,
it's about the allocation of resources. In California and in so many other states today, as you know, we're seeing a big move toward uh, something called liberated ethnic studies, which is a rather divisive approach that sees all issues as pretty simplistic. It's a binary way of viewing the world where
you're
students
right.
are either an oppressor based on immutable characteristics like skin color or national origin, or they're an oppressed. And if you're an oppressor, even if you had, or your parents or grandparents had nothing to do with discrimination against Mexican farm workers or slavery or whatever the issue is, you're made to feel personally responsible, and the Latino or Black student maybe is encouraged to not work that hard or not motivated to work that hard because the deck is stacked against them. And I think that's unhealthy and unproductive and denigrating our American system of government without really teaching it fully, or denigrating capitalism, or denigrating Western democracies, America, Israel. These are all things that don't bring people together. They divide children, and we have enough division in our society and enough polarization in our politics, I think, where we ought to find a better way. So maybe you comment on that and what you saw and what you think, and then I'd like to talk about things like civics and a better way forward.
No, I completely agree with what you're saying, Mitch. And I saw it firsthand. I think uh, I, I think that my family's story and my family's values and my own uh, belief system, I really take the the tenets of Catholicism and Christianity to heart, and do my best to live them out. And so everything I think in education has to start with understanding people as deserving of the benefit of the doubt at first, and everyone should have the benefit of redeeming themselves when they or if they do something wrong. You should assume that person is a good person before you ever assume a person's a bad person. And if you're assuming someone's a bad person without meeting them, it's probably because you're looking at what their appearance, whether it's their race, their color, whatever they're wearing, something on them. And that's just not fair to anybody. And we wouldn't want to have that done upon us. We cannot paint people with a broad brush, and then the people from that other group who try to support us, it's like, what are they part of the oppressor? It sounds to me like they're helping to fight for justice. So that dichotomy you're talking about really, really bothers me. And I think one of the biggest parts about why it bothers me is because I saw young people absorbing it and not questioning it. And I was luckily in a position to be able to show that that's not a productive way to think. I would say that the fracturing that comes from that takes a lot to repair, a lot of time sitting down, a lot of conversations. It puts so much pressure on teachers to rebuild a student who has accepted the oppressor oppressed binary mindset, as you point out, while we're trying to improve their math skills, get their writing up to par, make them ready to go to be in the workforce, be productive, and be able to sustain themselves and their families over a career. I think it creates in a person who does struggle in life, who does see a lack of support from their government, a lack of justice in all forms of systems, economic, public safety, criminal justice, all those things. It makes a person feel like they're the victim and that there's little they can do to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It actually robs a person of their agency. And if it robs a person of their agency, it robs them of a lot of their hope for better. And that's the last thing we want to do with children. We don't want to rob them of their hope. We want them to say, might you be a victim of an injustice in one thing? Yes, but there's a way to overcome it. And that's the beauty of American history that I was able to teach them, is that all of these injustices we have overcome, and we have a long way to go. I don't ever want to undersell that. There's still segregation in our country. There's still racism in our country. But on the whole and proportionally, we are largely overcoming those. And we've seen leaps and bounds over the last 50 years, over the last 20 years, that we've seen those things overcome. And so if you make a person a victim and feel that that is their label, then there's a point at which it becomes there's no more moral responsibility for their own action. Like, that's the worst outcome at the end, right, Mitch? Like, when you see a person who says, I'm part of the oppressed, I'm a victim, and therefore I'm empowered to do things that if somebody else did it, it would be unjust. But because I'm doing it, it's okay. And that is undermining one of the most important parts of American culture an American constitutional way of life, which is equality under the law, and everybody has a duty and a responsibility to their fellow citizen that they also are due back. And so when you talk about this dichotomy, it scares me. And it's something that I believe we need to dissuade people from believing, because I think we're better than that. I think we should give people hope and ensure they have agency over their lives instead of creating this dichotomy that says you're part of one group or the other, and that's the way it is. And I don't believe that's the way it is.
Well, when you remove hope from people and you tell them they're victims, that does not set the conditions for peace, for sure. Um, so, Raul, as you know, Think Foundation very much believes in a better way and believes that these issues are complicated issues and they're nuanced issues and they're not simple 2-minute conversations. Students need to be taught the skills to think critically and flexibly and unpack these issues and debate them and disagree with each other in an agreeable fashion. We need to learn our history, warts and all. We need to understand the progress we've made, the work we still have to do, and how to do it better. And just on a practical matter, when we look at our world today on the cusp of the AI revolution, and we consider that many jobs that these today's fifth graders may have in 10 or 20 years probably haven't even been dreamed of yet. And they're going to need to learn problem solving skills, and they're going to need to learn debate and compromise and how to think critically. We believe that bringing in civics and bringing in American history, warts and all, and teaching the children how to debate these issues is a better way than spoon feeding an ideology and simplifying it to the point that you're either this or you're that. Maybe you have a few thoughts on that subject.
Well, I really think that schools schools should be at the heart of the focus of every level of government, local and state and federal, and to give them the resources to begin to shape children's lives so that we can move in that positive direction, bringing everybody up and every level of society up and every subgroup within society up with it. That is something that we don't seem to have really ever had as a country, because we've been sort of decentralized. We have a federal system with state and federal government. And so all these different pots of money that go into trying to help education, there's no unified, uniform way forward, which I can also understand. Every community is different, and we want to let individual parents and individual communities have more choice over their curriculum and the calendar, the schedule, the foods, like all the things that go into making a good environment, right? So I can see why that tension exists. But when it comes to the curriculum, we have to have some base markers of understanding that our American history has a lot of problems, but that we are overcoming them, and that they are overcome by working together. I really appreciate how we can improve those systems if we support workers. Lord knows that when you have this much responsibility, 30 lives or more in your hands for hours and hours a day, we should invest more in that. And at the same time, staying focused on those sorts of components to support the workforce, and making sure that the curriculum that they're teaching is balanced and is teaching the lessons that you have agency over your life and that you should have hope in the world that we live in. I think that one of the things that you're getting at, Mitch, is that we have a lot of work to do as a society, and because teachers have such an important role in shaping our society, emphasizing the commonalities we have and not teaching a philosophy of division is something is something I support. And that doesn't mean brushing over the bad parts of history. In fact, touching on the bad parts of history is how we learn how to not repeat it. I really am a strong supporter of teachers who are in a classroom right now and aren't sure how to go because there's so much politicization of the curriculum, and they are the ones who are struggling the most. And I think it's a vast majority of teachers who are thinking that, who really show up and say, "Hey, I'm trying to get these kids on grade level. I'm trying to teach them how to behave. I'm trying to teach them how to think for the future, and I'm trying to teach them how to love each other and love their community." And instead, we have a lot of messages coming over the top that says, "No, this is now the message you need to teach." That some of them are oppressed and they need to embody that. And it's like, no, they need to know that there is oppression in the world, but they don't need to be the embodiment of oppression in their lives. That system is not something that I think breeds a good environment to actually learn all the other things. And it's about all these people here are trying to help you in one form or another, some more, some less, but really everyone trying to drive the train in the same direction, Mitch. That's what I loved about education. And I hope we see more of that. I feel like we've lost our way a little bit.
I hope we do too, Raul. Thank you very much.